Good evening, everyone. As we begin this meeting, I'll ask everyone to please silence their cell phones and other electronic devices and remind council that the procedure bylaw prescribes the use of technology during council meetings. It is 6:30 p.m. I'll call this council meeting to order. The Municipality of Brighton Council recognizes and acknowledges that we are on traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe, now of Alderville. The Mississauga peoples agreed through treaties with the Crown to mutual sharing obligations and responsibilities as stewards of the lands and waters. We recognize these are now our shared obligations in partnership to continue to protect the land and water that we now know as Brighton. In doing our work, Council honors the Indigenous ancestors who came before us and who continue to be present on these lands which we occupy. We acknowledge and honor the First Nations who continue to hold and share their rich history, traditions, and cultures that are proud, modern, and vibrant. As we move forward, we hope that every time we gather, we acknowledge all those who have come before us. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that Council approve the March 3rd, 2025 agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. I will note that we have received regrets from both Councillor Butwell and Councillor Wright this evening. Although Councillor Wright suggested she may come in electronically, that hasn't happened yet. Members of Council, have you any declarations of pecuniary interest? And if so, please state the general nature thereof. There are none noted. Are there any announcements this evening? Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you. I just want to report that on Friday, the Intermunicipal Task Force on Housing and Homelessness had a very successful event bringing together planners, developers, builders, realtors, lenders, nonprofits, building officials, and politicians all around the same table to talk about how we can make housing more affordable in Northumberland. It was a tremendously successful event, even just insofar as participants were very excited about being able to hear the entire story of the development process from others in the process that they didn't know some things about what they do. So there were a lot of people who came in feeling like this is a process that is frustrating and these are my opponents in this process, and they left as allies working together towards system change. So that was a really positive event. I got big thumbs up from our staff who were present. I've heard people saying at the event, we need to do this more often. And some people approached me afterwards from Brighton and said, we need to do this locally, just in Brighton. Let's get together on a regular basis. And I also have a mountain of data to comb through and put together a report for Council's pleasure and hopefully for our planning staff to consider as they look towards how they can make changes for the April report.
Thank you for that. Anybody else? I mentioned to members of council that I had sent letters both from the Office of the Warden and from the office here to our compatriots south of the border, just asking them to, please honor our friendship and be mindful of the fact that, tariffs are going to affect everyone in a big way, including their economies and ours. Over the weekend, I put out a social post about that, and the town supervisor of Brighton, New York responded saying they received our letter, proudly read it to their town board, and have responded. We haven't received the response yet. He did post it on Facebook, so I was able to read it, and noted that he looks forward to visiting us and continuing with our endearing friendship. So these are important grassroots movements, I think, that will help keep things moving along as we need them to. So I will continue to plod along as I do. Any other announcements? Moving to the adoption of the minutes, I have a motion moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Rowley, that Council adopt the February 18th, 2025 Council meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. And a motion moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Rowley, that Council adopt the February 24th, 2025 Special County Council meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? I will say that was a good session, nice reminder for some of us, and good information session for our new member. All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. We have no public meeting this evening, which brings us to delegations and presentations. We have only one presentation and I'm giving it, so I'm not going to read the rules around it because I know them. But I'm pleased to announce, which is the least kept secret on earth since it's been out on the socials, that Applefest was awarded a Top 100 award by Festivals and Events Ontario at their annual conference in Windsor last week. The event was considered in the fall of 2024 by submission and was awarded the recognition by an independent panel of judges. Top 100 awards recognize festivals and events for their excellence in creativity, community engagement, and overall event experience. With this recognition, Applefest joins other Top 100 events across the province, including the CNE and the Canadian International Air Show. So as members of the committee join me up front so I can provide them with this certificate from Festivals and Events Ontario, I will say this is not surprising to any of us here in Brighton. We've always known that we have one of Ontario's premier events going on every fall in the municipality of Brighton, and we have a top-notch team that continued to offer it even when people weren't supposed to be gathering, and continued to, although it was a lighter brand, it continued to offer the festival for locals during a time when life was difficult for a lot of little economies. So my thanks to this committee, but to the community at large who continues to support Applefest and continues to come out in droves, even in a time when getting around Brighton might be a little more difficult for that one day. But folks, join me up front, please. Madam Clerk, are you aware of any citizens' comments are coming before council this evening? And there are none, which brings us to staff reports. And we'll just take a 2-second recess while we wait for Mr. Hagerman to return. No, not at all. I get it. You had important duties to carry out, I understand. So our first staff report is the Shed at King Ed RFP. Manager Hagerman, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Not at this time, Mayor.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councilor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council direct staff to seek requests for proposal to lease out the Shed at King Ed, the Shed at King Edward Park for canteen and refreshment services. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Go ahead, Councilor Rowley.
Just one question, Mr. Hagerman. Canteen services, we've already had a food truck there. Is this going to kind of complement that, or is this going to eliminate one, or will we now have more than one there?
Through the mayor to Councillor Rowley, the food truck we've had the last 2 summers enters into the 3rd year of their contract if they choose to take the option. So they'll be back. Location still not totally sure. A lot of things varied that last year, but with the idea that the building isn't equipped with deep fryers or a commercial kitchen, they can't offer the hot food that the food truck can. So it'll be just a little bit more basic, refrigerated chocolate bars, chips, stuff like that. If we do get a RFP that can offer some canteen services.
Thank you both. Any other questions? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. Next report is with regard to a new fire station #1 and paramedic base progress report. Chief Thompson, I understand you have a presentation for this evening's meeting.
That's correct, Your Worship.
So I'll turn the floor over to you, sir.
We'd like to bring our presentation, some conceptual drawings that we have for the new fire station paramedic base. So as 2022, we started, we purchased the land from the school board here. So we get another 180 feet on Elizabeth Street, right straight north to Dundas Street. So after we done that, as my report says, we visited a few fire stations. We've got the best out of all their fire stations, any changes they would have made in the new fire stations. And we came up with some conceptual drawings through Greystone Engineering out of Huntsville, who's very reputable in the business. They build a lot of fire stations. So we'll go to the first drawing here is our site plan, rough site plan from the land that we have. So just to show you that it does fit on there. Next slide. And this is done internally by our own staff. They've done an actual layout for elevations and placed the building on the best location they could. It also includes on Elizabeth Street, another turning lane, so for the future, and some stormwater management issues that we have on that piece of property there. Next slide. So this is looking at it from Elizabeth Street. So it's a 4-bay. We'll go through the floor plan after, but it's a 4-bay apparatus floor with a garage on the end, starting on the east side, and then the office areas and the main entrance. And part of the community engagement or community feedback I received was there was no place to have a meeting in Brighton. So we added about a 1,500 square foot community room on the second level. And that would be available for the community to use as well. So the footprint drawing will show you more, but it's so a fire station in a shared service or shared with community. And then the paramedic base is off of Alice Street on the west side. So this is a view from the Pet Value basically from the west side. We did have a CAO, Arthur's Nest. We did meet together with the Northumberland County CAO and paramedic chief. And so they have, based on this first drawing, they have asked for 2 doors on their side versus just 1. So we have Greystone making them modifications right now, and then we'll make sure we can agree on what the inside would look like. But the outside footprint wouldn't change. So this would be the ground floor. You got a little pointer here. So starting on the right and the bottom is a garage for when you receive. We could put our UTV in there, or you could receive any kind of like hose orders or any kind of equipment orders that we receive in that area. And then on that whole wall, be on the east side, meets all the health and safety for Section 21 administrative labor for bunker gear washing, bunker gear drawing. So when you're drying that gear, it all has to be exhausted outside now for new rules. The shower within an hour. So if our guys come back from a fire scene, they can take their dirty gear off, launder it, dry it, have a shower, and then they can keep all the contaminations on the far side of the building, as well as an air compressor room for our breathing air that we use. We have a compressor room that we fill bottles with. That'll also be on that side. And then the back corner is a hose tower. They say 4 bays too deep for the apparatus floor. And then you go into, so this station's built for a 50 to 75-year build. So to say that we wouldn't have full-time firefighters probably in the next 20 years to some point, I think we will based on our growth. So this is set up for the future of this, of the town growth. So we have a bunker gear room, a locker room. So we went with 1 locker room and 2 bathrooms or 2 change rooms. So lockers are for storing your clothing and so on, and then the change rooms would be for your showers and getting changed. Workstation for the captains, the officers' workstations, chief and deputy office. And then in the front would be a museum basically for our old archives and the old antique fire truck. And that would be the public space, and you walk in that front door. So there's that portion, and then there's a reception there as well. If you see there's an elevator and a set of stairs, so if you walked in the front door, if you're, say, just a Lions Club wanted to meet there, they can use either the stairs or the elevator to go to the second level. And when you go to the second level, it's all isolated from EMS and fire. It's just a community space. The blue is a paramedic space. During our tours, when we went around the county, the Trent Hills Fire Station, this is very similar to the size of Trent Hills Fire Station, which they've already outgrown. The paramedics have already outgrown that portion. The community paramedicine now is staged out of Northumberland or of Trent Hills Hospital. So they have their paramedics run out of their base with the fire station, then the community paramedicine's at a different location. So part of their feedback was we want to try to get community paramedicine, which isn't going to go away, to be able to fit in the paramedic base as well. Same thing, lockers, all the health and safety, they store a lot of drugs and narcotics, so they have to have safe, secure storage for that. And basically the same health and safety rules that we follow. Next slide. So this is the upstairs portion, the second level. As you'll see on the far right there in the red, it's protected for a dorm room. So what that would be is a meeting room or a training room until the time in the future when if you ever did need to have dorms, you would put that in there. That's quite common. I know Trent Hills did that in their building, and it's quite common when we went to Quinte West, Prince Edward County and surrounding area. There's 2 offices upstairs, training officer and a fire prevention officer. And then there's lots of rooms for plan layout. So if you had to do plan reviews and have meetings, and it's also the training portion, there's a little library up there so we can keep all our manuals. And quite a bit of the new training and the new mandatory certification is online training. So that would be a workstation or work area for the online training. And if you see the white portion, that's the community portion. So that big room in the corner is around 1,600 square feet that can be divided into 2 separate rooms and full access from downstairs to that with a kitchenette and a bathroom, obviously, and then a couple coat closets outside to hang your coats. Then the 2 blue sections or 3 blue sections at the back is a washroom as well as a quiet room for paramedics. They come back from a bad call or just need some time alone. There's that area. And then there's a meeting room for community paramedicine as well. So they were going to try to combine that area. That was part of the feedback that we received, and just make that one room with both capabilities. And then just go to the right in the red, that's the meeting room for fire department, as well as a health and wellness center basically in that corner, which will be available to the municipal employees as well. So when you come in the north side, go up the stairs, it's all isolated from the fire business. So I know our CAO likes to go to the gym. So if she wanted to come in, she could go to the gym and then she could have her shower, do what she has to do, and then go at the back and not come and bother us. But it's all accessible from that side. Next slide. I think that's it.
I trust you've had your performance review already.
Yeah.
Are there any questions for members of council for clarification? Go ahead, Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, I love the community room. That's a great addition because I've been hearing that for several years now as well, that we need more space for community groups to meet. Love that we have so many community groups that we ran out of space for them to meet. I'm wondering with this design, has there been consideration for sustainability in the design in terms of certain levels or standards of sustainable design or goals toward net zero, things like that?
Chief?
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Wilden. Yes, that's a good question, and we did explore that. I know Peterborough Fire just built a net zero fire hall in the north end of town up by the zoo, and it was just over 10,000 square feet, and it was not quite 3 times as much per square foot to build. And I tried to get the rate of return on that, but we haven't got that back yet. But we plan on, we're wide open for that, like especially to be efficient. But remember, these buildings are all post-disaster too. So they're already built, heavily insulated, heavily protected, I guess you want, or from a post-disaster standpoint. If we had to put solar panels on the roof or something like that, we could do it. But as far as going full net zero building, we didn't go too far in the investigation just because based on cost. There is some grants available, but they're like 10%. They're not, it'd be hard to justify at this time. Not in the future, maybe. There may be more opportunities, but right now there isn't too many engineering companies that even look at it right now. So
Thank you
that's as
both.
far as we got on that, but good question. And we want to be as efficient as we can. So
Thank you both. Anyone else? Chief, I saw in the design that there was one flagpole.
uh,
We need to have 3 flagpoles, buddy.
I got her.
Okay.
This is just, like I say, this is just conceptual, and any feedback that you have, it's really appreciated because we want to do it right the first time. Plus our goal is rework costs 3 times as much as pre-work. So
Yeah.
we want to get our pre-work and get our ducks all in a row. I
100%.
do want to read something.
Go ahead.
Spent a lot of time trying to figure out what to say, and then my wife helped me. So it's a newly constructed fire station that is seamlessly blends modern functionality with timeless historic charm, honoring the architecture and heritage of our community, which I thought was pretty fitting because our old fire station was 50 years ago when it blew down, and this new fire station kind of grabs that concept of the old as well as the new, and it is in the heart of Brighton, so it's a landmark, if you want to say.
Thank you for that. And I understand other fire departments have already seen these draft designs and are suggesting that they may be best in class and they want to use them.
That's correct. I have had quite a few calls. I have quite a few peers in the province and quite a few calls that have went to Greystone, and they call me and say, I'm so sick of hearing, have you looked at Brighton's new station? Have you looked at Brighton's new station? But anyway, there's a lot of work to it and a lot of thought that went into it. It is well designed, I think, and it would suit us for another 50 to 75 years.
Brilliant. I look forward to seeing those fire chiefs come down and take a look at our brand new station when it's finally up and running.
I told them the beach isn't very crowded right now, so but
The motion is moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council receives the progress update on the new Brighton Fire Station #1, Northumberland County Paramedic Base, and the council directs staff to report back with final conceptual designs and a draft agreement outlining the financial and ownership aspects with the County of Northumberland. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. Thank you, Chief. Next report is with regard to municipal closures, noon, December 24th to January 2nd, 2026. Manager Smith, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I do not.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council approve the closure of the municipal offices December 24th, 29th, 30th, 31st, 2025, and January 2nd, 2026. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next report is 2024 Accessible Vision and Goals Update. Deputy Clerk Polly, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just for our new council member who's seeing a report like this for the first time, this is something we do annually to provide an update on our accessible goals. In the report attached is the plan for 5 years. Coming soon, we'll have to revamp that and do another 5 years from 2026 to 2030. But each year we do an update to try and kind of gives us a benchmark of where we're at and how we're doing. Otherwise, nothing to add. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor McCausland, that council receives the 2024 Accessible Vision and Goals Update for information purposes. Is there any discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. Next report is the CAO ongoing report and capital projects update. CAO, do you have anything to add or highlight?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to note that following the, assuming the passage of the bylaw this evening with the 2025 budget, we will update this document to ensure that we capture all the new capital projects for the next council meeting.
Thank you for that. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council receive the CAO ongoing report and capital projects update as information. Is there any discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. There are no notices of motions or motions. There's no unfinished business listed here. Moves us into bylaws. The first bylaw is the 2025 budget bylaw. I have a motion moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council gives a bylaw. Its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to adopt the estimates for general purposes for the corporation of the municipality of Brighton for the year 2025. Is there any discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. The next bylaw is the 2025 Water and Wastewater Fees and Charges bylaw, with a motion moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor McCausland. The council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to establish water and wastewater fees and service charges for the municipality of Brighton effective March 3rd, 2025. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. The next bylaw is 2025. No, it's grant funding agreement for Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund. It's moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute a grant funding agreement between the corporation of the municipality of Brighton and His Majesty the King in the right of Ontario, as represented by the Ministry of Infrastructure regarding funding the Provincial Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund to assist the municipality with the construction of Brighton's wastewater treatment system upgrades. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. The next is a bylaw to constitute and appoint a committee of adjustment. It's moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson. The council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to constitute and appoint a committee of adjustment for the period of January 1st, 2023 to November 15th, 2026. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one question, I guess, because we're dating back to 2023. Is this just something that we've missed and this is just kind of housekeeping now?
Deputy Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Rowley. It's not necessarily housekeeping. We appoint and establish the committee for the term of council. However, it's kind of an awkward situation where the community members can be appointed for the term of council, but the council member who is appointed for a 1-year term. Former Councillor Paredes was that member and served 2 years through appointment by council. And now we're updating it to appoint Councillor Butwell through the resolution of council.
Which we will have to do again next year. Any further discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. Brings us to reports. Minutes of advisory committees of council and review teams. The first comes from the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee. It's moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor McCausland, that council received the December 16th, 2024 Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion is carried. The motion moved by Councillor Rowley, so that brings us to the recommendation. Motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson. The council support the recommendation regarding the use of the full name of the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee, and that council direct that members of council committees and staff use the full name of the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee and not the abbreviated version when referring to the committee in all public-facing verbal or written communications. Is there any discussion? And while I appreciate the want for this, it disappoints me that we can't say Jedi anymore. All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. And we're moving on to reports and minutes of statutory committees, boards, and external agencies. This comes from the Brighton Public Library. It's moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon. The council received the Brighton Public Library Board meeting minutes of January 22nd, 2025 as presented. And I'm just going to go back for a second. I should have asked Councillor Wheeldon if there was anything on the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee that you would like to report to council.
Thank you, Mayor. The December meeting had matters that we have already approved as a council. And so there was nothing new from that, from those minutes.
Thank you. I was expecting you to talk more, Jeff. Councillor Rowley, you're not on, you weren't at this meeting, were you? You at the library board meeting? But you are not, you're no longer. Councillor McCausland, you would be our member. Do you have anything to report with regard to these minutes or the meeting?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing really, just besides we have a new Brighton Library webpage. It's brand new. Willow designed it. It's very nice. It's very helpful, very easy to use. Other than that, no.
Thank you. I'll have to take a look at that. Anything further on the motion? All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion is carried. Brings us to correspondence, direction items, endorsements, communications, and petitions. With a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council support a resolution regarding adequate and sustainable funding for child welfare agencies passed by Northumberland County Council. Is there any discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. We'll move into FYI correspondence from the Bridge Hospice. Motion moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council receive Kim Good, Executive Director of the Bridge Hospice Matching Campaign Report. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. That brings us to question period. Is there anything from any member of the gallery that appeared with a question that appeared on tonight's agenda? None noted. So we will proceed into closed session, at which point the live stream will be shuttered, but we'll return to the live stream when we re-enter the open session at the end of the closed session meeting, should council choose it to go into closed session. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council resolve itself into closed session March 3rd, 2025 at 7:05 p.m. Pursuant to the Ontario Municipal Act, RSO 2001 as amended subsection 239(2)B, personal matter about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, specifically physician recruitment, and C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, a potential purchase of land. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. And we will take a 10-minute recess and return to the closed session at 7:15, giving staff an opportunity to transition to the closed. staff a moment to transition to the open. Thank you, everyone. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor McCausland, that council rise and report from closed session, March 3rd, 2025 at 8:18 PM. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion is carried. Council met in closed session. It is permitted to do so under the Municipal Act and as listed on today's council agenda and the closed session resolution. The following items were considered during the closed session and may require motions as necessary. The first was the approval of the closed session meeting minutes of February 24th, and a procedural motion to adopt those minutes was voted on in the closed session, and there remains nothing to be done in the public open session. Item 2B was a personal matter about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, specifically physician recruitment. And item 3C was a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, potential purchase of land. And I do have motions for the approval of the confidential directions provided in closed session. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council approve the confidential directions given to staff in the closed session of March 3rd, 2025. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. We'll move to the confirmatory bylaw with a motion moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date. Being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Corporation of the Municipality of Brighton Council meeting held on March 3rd, 2025. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. And a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that the March 3rd, 2025 council meeting adjourn at 8:20 PM. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried, and may we be blessed with unity and strength in Brighton and across Canada, and may God save the King.